Good afternoon, BNI. My name is Jenni Nering. I'm the Executive Director for our SoCal BNI region here, and I'd like to welcome all of our attendees to our Visitor Day Support webinar. This is week 2 in our series, and this week we're going to be focusing on what the different roles within the chapter should be focused on this week as they're preparing for their visitor days. So we're going to be going over the specific handouts for week 2 in the preparation phase. We're going to go over the specific presentations and also how the various leadership and support team roles can be supporting the members throughout the visitor day process, but specifically focusing in on week 2. If you missed week 1, we do have them recorded. So if you need a copy of that, please feel free to reach out to your director consultant and they can assist you with getting a copy of the recorded webinar from week 1 in the series. A couple quick housekeeping items as we get started. I do have all of our participants on listen only. So if you have a question, feel free to type it in the control panel of the webinar section. I won't be unmuting any of our participants today, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions as you type them in. I will get to them just as quickly as I can, or if I know that we'll be covering it further along in the webinar, I will just let you know of that as well. A couple other quick housekeeping items. Under the handout section, you'll notice in the webinar control panel, I've uploaded 5 handouts. These are available for you to view during the webinar. In addition, you can go ahead and download them so you have them easily accessible as you're going through the visitor day process. As I mentioned, these webinars are being recorded, so I want to make you aware of that. They'll be available for you throughout the visitor day process, regardless of which week your chapter may be in now. You will have access to these at a later time to make sure that they're all corresponding with the process that you folks are going through. In addition, this year, one of the enhancements that we've added to our visitor day process is a weekly email campaign. And this is only being sent to chapters that are going through the visitor day process. So once your chapter has scheduled their visitors day with our regional office, we put you on our calendar. And the week before your 6-week process begins, all of the members in your chapter will receive week 1 of the email campaign. And within that email will be a link to week 1's webinar, so you can reference that. And also it will include the attachments, the handouts, the worksheets, and the instructions for where your chapter should be on week 1. We are really hoping that through this hand-holding process of the webinars, the weekly emails, and the schedule that we've laid out is a little more broken down. We hope that this will help to make it a much easier process. We do know that it's a lot of work to put on a visitor's day, but we've got it broken down step by step, and we hope that this helps to avoid any of the confusion of what each chapter should be doing on the various weeks. We know that the process that we're presenting to you is what helps to drive the most success, the best results, and helps to add the most value to our members. So once again, just a quick reminder, if you have questions or any comments as we go along, feel free to type them in the control panel, and I'm happy to answer those. Quick reminder about our BNI core values. It's really important as we're going through a visitor's day process or a leadership transition, goal setting, that we're always honoring our BNI core values and that we're making sure that the things that we're implementing are in line with these things. And I truly believe that if we follow the BNI process for the visitor's day and the preparation, that we're absolutely honoring all of our core values, givers gain, building relationships. It's definitely a learning process. We're going to honor our traditions, but we're always looking to innovate and get feedback from our members on what works better to make this a better process for our members. It's important to keep a positive attitude throughout the visitor day process. Although it is, a lot of work and a lot of commitment, there's a lot of great value that comes through it. So really keeping, our members reminded that having that positive attitude is just going to help them to achieve even greater results. We definitely want to make sure we're recognizing our members all throughout the Visitor Day process for their accomplishments, their successes, and their contributions to the chapter. And one of the things that makes our Visitor Day process so successful is there's a lot of built-in accountability. And so it really pulls everybody together as a chapter, as a group, to focus on reaching goals together with the built-in accountability, which makes sure that everyone's participating. Because as we know, even those that don't participate receive the value that is achieved through a visitor's day. And so in order for them to build great credibility within the chapter, we need to help hold them accountable to the process. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the various presentations and worksheets that we should be using during week 2. As a reminder, under the handout section, you'll see that I've uploaded the 8-week schedule. So this will give you the bigger picture of the process that we're going through. So if you missed out on week 1, this is one of the handouts that we provided last week. So you have that available here as well. The education coordinator. During week 2, you will be presenting the interactive contact sphere worksheet presentation. This is actually something that I walk our members through in the Visitor Day workshop. So if you are unclear on exactly how this should be presented, I strongly encourage you to check out our events calendar and get registered to attend one of our workshops where I spend a lot more time going into detail about how to present this. This is definitely not a handout that we have intended for you to just pass out during the chapter meeting and tell your members to go back and fill it out. If you do that, I can almost guarantee you it will become the floor mat of their vehicle and they'll never pick it up again. So it's very important that you walk them through this exercise. You get your members participating and sharing ideas of who we should be inviting, who do we want to be inviting. So quickly here, what I do when I'm walking our chapters through the Visitor Day workshop, is I, of course, have them fill out their profession, specifically the profession that they have been approved to represent within the chapter. Then I give them a couple minutes and I ask them to fill out and include 5 professions that they'd really like to have in the chapter. These are 5 professions that perhaps they feel that they have referrals to give these members, but unfortunately they don't have the members represented in the chapter. So these would be individuals further down their sales cycle. And as we know, in order for Givers Gain to work, as members, we have to have people within our chapter that we can refer to. So maybe you're missing some of those professions in your chapter currently. You would want to include those in your contact sphere worksheet. And then the obvious is, who are those professions that you feel easily refer to you? Who are those professions that typically come before you in the sales cycle? So if I was to give you an example right now, let's look at, let's say, the real estate contact sphere. The realtor is obviously going to need a mortgage professional and homeowners insurance, inspector to come out and do property inspections, a home appraiser. They may even need someone to come in and do some house cleaning and get the home in great looking shape before they start presenting it at open houses and such. Maybe a stager to stage the property so it shows well at those open houses. So those would be professions that they'd want to include. Now, I asked them to fill out 5 during the meeting, and then I ask who is stuck, who did not get to 5, who's unable to think of 5 professions. Every once in a while, nobody will raise their hand. And so I will then say, if I were to ask you to fill out 10 right now, would you all be able to fill out 10? And normally at that point, I get a couple brave people that will raise their hand and say, I'm stuck. And that's the goal. We want to be able to help those members within the chapter that are having a difficult time identifying those top 10 professions that they want in the chapter. I give them permission to be selfish during this exercise. We want them to think about the professions that they need. Now, once someone is admitting that they're stuck and they need some help, We help them as a group right there, live in the chapter meeting. We want to help them fill out this contact sphere. Now, as we're helping that individual member, you'll notice if you're the education coordinator presenting this, that other people begin adding names to their list, or excuse me, professions to their list as well. Because as we're helping one member, we're also helping the other members to identify the professions that they need that they may not have even thought about. Now, as time permits, I encourage you to try to get 2 volunteers that you can walk through this with. That way, perhaps you get maybe someone from like the health and wellness contact sphere and maybe someone for the financial services, and you'll be able to help more people as you're helping those individuals. The next slide here is also for week 2 education coordinator presentation. I provided this for you as more of just some ideas. As you're presenting this, you're going to want to do a little bit of homework yourself and see maybe where some of the gaps are in the contact sphere so that you come in prepared to give some recommendations. So I felt that this may be helpful for you to have. These are some of the more common professions that we see within BNI, and they typically fit into these various contact spheres. I do always kind of tiptoe into this conversation about contact spheres and power teams because I never want anyone to feel that based off of their profession, they have to be in these specific contact spheres. We see time and time again where oftentimes professions are not necessarily, you're receiving referrals not necessarily by profession, but oftentimes by what people are connected to outside of their work. So it may be a good idea for you to review the gains profile, as that may help you to generate ideas of who you could be filling in your contact sphere with. The next slide here, this is the presentation for week 2 that we hope the event coordinator or the growth and retention coordinator will be presenting on. This is a newer concept within BNI, so it wouldn't surprise me if many of you haven't seen this before. I have provided it as one of the handout downloads, and it is something that we review in the Visitor Day workshop. The concept behind this, 8 and 5, is that obviously 8 times 5 is 40. So if we have 5 contact spheres within our chapter, all with 8 members, it's very easy to then build our 40-member chapter if that's your goal. With this worksheet, the strategy that we encourage our chapters to use is to first identify the professions that they already have represented within the various contact spheres, and then to look at the professions that they're missing. That really helps them to prepare their invitation list so that it's something personal for them. They are inviting the professions that they feel that they really would like to see within the group that will help them to receive more value through their BNI membership. So this is a presentation delivered by the event coordinator. As I mentioned previously in last week's webinar and through the Visitor Day workshop, the event coordinator is not always the growth and retention coordinator. There are times where we have maybe the chapter president or another member in the chapter that's very passionate about the Visitor Day process, and they step up to be the event coordinator. The key word here is coordinator. They're not the doer. They aren't putting on this event by themselves. So they're going to be looking for some friends, some fellow chapter members to really help step up and drive this process, in addition to the other support and leadership team roles that we have in the chapter. Week 2, for our mentors. During week 2 of the Visitor Day prep process, we really encourage you to be reaching out to your mentees to find out who they are inviting. Are they stuck preparing their list? Are they having a hard time identifying who should be in that contact sphere worksheet? Remind the mentees that the first set of 20 invitations will be due at the next week's meeting on week 3. So mentors, be really proactive this week to provide support to help your mentees brainstorm. Perhaps you want to set up a session where you as a mentor and your mentees get together and you do some brainstorming on who to invite. Maybe you work together to prepare your invitations and kind of break it down based off of skills. Who has nice writing to help fill out the envelopes? Who wants to pull the addresses off the internet or from the business cards? Who can help with mail merge? So mentors, be very proactive this week, communicating with all of your mentees to make sure that they're on track to have their first set of 20 letters prepared and ready to turn in next week during Stand and Deliver. Week 2 for our leadership team. Leadership teams, of course, if you're president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, there are a lot of moving parts on a weekly basis. But what we really want you focusing on during week 2 of the visitor day process is your visitor host team. Communicating with them to confirm that they are all on point, knowing how to use the follow-up system. Do they know how to enter visitors after the meeting? Do they know how to pull the registration report so they can see who's expected to be at the weekly meeting? Leadership team, reach out to your visitor host team to make sure that they're on a regular weekly basis entering all of their first time visitors, or I should say all of the chapters first time visitors into BNI Connect. It's a very powerful follow-up system that helps to take a lot of the pressure off of the individual members, because once these visitors are entered into BNI Connect, it does a lot of the follow-up for you. So once again, as I mentioned, we're really trying to help give you a process that if you follow it, it makes the visitor day process a little easier on the members without so much work to do. We know that follow-up is a key element of any successful chapter meeting, any successful visitors day, any successful business. So as leadership team members are working with the visitor host to make sure that they're on point to do a great follow-up from the visitors day, if there's any necessary support required, maybe you have new visitor hosts that have been added to your team, please use your director consultant to help get them certified. Also, if you check out our events calendar, we have a webinar scheduled here in the next couple weeks where we'll be walking the visitor hosts, specifically visitor hosts, but everyone's invited to participate. We'll be walking them through how to use the follow-up system in BNI Connect. So I hope to see a lot of you participating in that so you can also help to support your chapter members. Week 2 for our visitor day support email. What you'll be receiving through our regional office once you're entered in the campaign, you'll be receiving various attachments, the worksheets that we talked about here today, the 8-week schedule. Once again, you'll be receiving a copy of the invitation letter, so you have that available for you. The 8 and 5 worksheet, your contact sphere worksheet, and the visitor day letter preparation information sheet, which walks you through how to prepare those letters. Those handouts are available for you here as well if you download them through the webinar. They're also available in BNI Connect, and you'll be receiving them on week 2 of the email campaign. So we're trying to make all of these resources available to you so that you can sort of go through the motions without having to think as much about what am I supposed to be doing this week. We hope to be able to provide you with that support as you go through the visitor day prep process. If you have any questions that you haven't asked, I've got some time left here in our webinar. I'd love to take some of your questions. If you have comments or need clarification on anything, this is your time to go ahead and type those questions in. Don't worry, I won't share your name, so the person asking will be kept confidential, but if you have a question, I'm sure you're not the only one. Feel free to go ahead and type that in. We do have a couple comments here of members saying what a great resource this has been already for them to help roadmap through their visitors day. Also some great feedback on the 8-week schedule that is in the visitor day handbook. And just to remind you, the schedule in the visitor day handbook is completely following the same timeline and steps that we're providing in the webinar. So this is just to help provide that additional level of support for our members. I'll go ahead and wait just another couple seconds here to see if anyone has questions. It looks like someone has raised their hand to ask a question. I request that rather than raising your hand, if you could type in your question so that I can read that and answer it for the rest of our audience, that'd be terrific. If it's a question you feel is too difficult to type, let me know and I can go ahead and unmute you for just a moment so that you can ask that question. Okay, a question here about scheduling a Visitors Day workshop. That's a terrific question. I've mentioned that a couple times here on the webinar. That's actually something that you can do through the Member Resource tab on socalbni.com. There's an online form there for you to fill out, and you can reserve and pay your deposit right there for the chapter. We do require a minimum of 10 participants to get that scheduled. Please be aware our availability is getting very slim right now. We've got a number of chapters that have already taken advantage of the chapter hosted workshops. So if you're interested in getting one of those booked, don't delay, take care of that right away. We are also offering some Visitor Day workshops at the regional office. We'd love to have you out at our regional office with us. For those ones, if you pre-register and show up to the workshop, your pre-registration fee, which helps to reserve your seat, will be refunded to you after you attend. So the Visitor Day workshops hosted at the regional office, in essence, are complimentary, but you do need to pre-register and prepay to reserve your seat. After attending, we'll refund you that $25 registration fee or $30 registration fee. Okay, a great question here. One of our participants asked where we can find the booklet that lists the pages referred to in the weekly schedule. The handbook is available through our Visitor Day workshops. And in addition to that, um, I, if you are not participating in a Visitors Day workshop, then you need to connect with your director so that they can help to make sure that you guys are on point to follow the process, and they'll be able to help you with the workbook. It's not something that we have available as a download as an entire workbook for members. However, we do have the individual worksheets available. So if you're specifically looking for the personal prospect list and you're a member of our SoCal BNI region, if you go to the document section in BNI Connect, you can type in personal prospect list and it will pull up right there for you to download. I've also provided it. It will also be available for you in the weekly email once your chapter's on our schedule for the Visitors Day. On week 1, every member of your chapter will receive a copy of the personal prospect list. Great questions. I have time for a couple more if anyone else has a question they'd like to ask right now. So as a reminder, we've got a few more of these scheduled. We've got our week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7 and 8 we're doing as a combination week. So I encourage you to register early, get these on your calendar, and please help spread the word and share it with the rest of your chapter members. I think that if they can get the information from us, it saves you guys a lot of work having to make sure that you're communicating all of these things and remembering, what you should be communicating. So please let us be a resource to the rest of your chapter members by sharing this and inviting them to participate. I appreciate all of you guys taking time out of your Friday afternoon to join me on the webinar today. Some great questions and comments. We look forward to having a terrific Visitor Day season with all of our SoCal BNI chapters, and however we can help to support you throughout the planning process and, even getting your members excited about it. Please use us as a resource. That's what we're here for. We absolutely want to make sure that we're brightening your future and helping you to find more success through BNI. Make it a great weekend, and I will see you all very soon. Happy connecting.